Well, good afternoon. Happy Earth Day. As the mayor of Berkeley, it's a pleasure to be here to celebrate Earth Day with you, to honor our planet, and to recognize the critical work we need to do to keep it alive. And thank you to the David Brower Center, the Citizens Climate Lobby, and Our Children's Trust for organizing this event. We just heard about how Earth Day got started, which is really an incredible story. And it's that same spirit of activism and collective impact that continues to this day in defending our planet. The city of Berkeley has been a national leader, as was touched upon, in areas of zero waste, combating climate change, and promoting sustainability. And our work is even more important now more than ever. And so, of course, it would be Earth Day with a political statement, and so I will now make my political statements. We gather today at a time when cities like Berkeley must reaffirm our progressive values, and when it's even more important than ever for us to show the world what we stand for. And unlike some in the White House, we all recognize that the science is clear. Climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity. And unless we take bold steps to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we will continue to see warmer temperatures, rising sea levels, and disruptive impacts on cities throughout the world, including right here in the city of Berkeley. Imagine the East Shore Freeway completely underwater. That may become a reality if sea level rise continues. And climate change doesn't just pose a direct risk to our shorelines. We are seeing the effects of warmer, drier temperatures with an increase in wildfires throughout the state. We all remember the 1991 Hills fire, and certainly the fires that occurred last year. Our city is uniquely prone to wildfire. The threat of climate change is real and cannot be ignored. But here in Berkeley, we have long recognized that this is a challenge we must address, and we have taken forward-thinking leadership to address the crisis of climate change. This is in contrast to the national administration that is working to quickly dismantle all the progress that we have made in environmental leadership. From appointing an unethical, I will add, and climate change denier as the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, to opening up our parks and our shores to oil extraction, green-lighting the Keystone Pipeline, and wiping out clean air regulations. We have a president who's reneged on his commitment to the Paris Climate Agreement. And Berkeley and many other Bay Area cities reaffirmed our commitment to the goals of the Paris Agreement when the president decided to renege. In fact, 377 mayors from throughout the country have committed to continuing the goals of the Paris Agreement. This past December, I signed onto the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, part of the North American Climate Summit. And this covenant is a promise to continue to push policies to significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, regardless of the action or lack of action by the federal level. And while the federal government may pull out of this important commitment to address climate change, we here in Berkeley and the Bay Area will not shy away from our responsibility to meet the greatest challenge of our time. And it's in Berkeley's DNA to lead on the progressive issues of our time, because we are a city of trailblazing people whose work not only makes our city a better place, but has inspired and changed the world. And while we may be a city that's small in size, our history, our values, and our voices are known throughout the world. Ideas are sparked here, movements are born here. From curbside recycling, which was an innovation that the Ecology Center launched in the late 60s and 70s, to the soda tax, which we passed in 2014. All those ideas got their start here in Berkeley. Berkeley has long been at the forefront of environmental leadership. In 1934, the voters of Berkeley and the East Bay voted to preserve 10,000 acres of surplus land to create an urban regional park, one of the first in the country. In addition, in the 1960s, when efforts were made to fill in the bay, three women, Sylvia McLaughlin, Kay Kerr, and Esther Gulick, worked to stop Bay Area cities from infilling the bay. And their work led to the first Wetlands Protection Act in the country, and also born was the East Shore Park and our Berkeley waterfront. Keep in mind that this was a time when residents in cities thought nothing of dumping old refrigerators, televisions, cars, and even more toxic things at the edge of the bay to create more land for housing. And now we've gone so far. We have a beautiful waterfront instead of a garbage heap. We cherish our shoreline, our beautiful wetlands, which provide critical habitat to birds and a great place for all of us to stroll and bike on weekends. We enjoy Tilden Park, knowing that it was very close to being purchased for development at the turn of the century. And in the 1960s, when there was greater advocacy and awareness of the threats to the environment, pesticides, pollution, and waste, it was out of this movement that the Ecology Center was born, which was one of the first action-oriented environmental organizations in the country. And as we know, in 1973, they started the first curbside recycling program, which now provides curbside recycling to residents and businesses throughout the city of Berkeley. Continuing on this groundbreaking work, in 1988, the city of Berkeley passed a policy to ban styrofoam packaging. And this ordinance has been a model for policies throughout the country, including the single-use disposable ordinance that Martin talked about this afternoon. Berkeley is continuing its commitment to sustainability and environmental leadership. In 2006, all of you voted for Measure G, which directed the city to develop a climate action plan and set an ambitious goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions 30% below year 2000 levels by the year 2020, and we're almost at 2020, and 80% by the year 2050. And our climate action plan, one of the first adopted in the United States, sets ambitious goals in the area of transportation, building energy usage, zero waste, and promoting resiliency. One of the most significant accomplishments of the Berkeley Climate Action Coalition, which is an organization in partnership with the Ecology Center, is the launch of the new East Bay Community Energy Authority, which will be providing clean and green power to Berkeley and East Bay residents starting in June 2018. And this is a critical step for Berkeley to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And we're working to not only provide a 100% renewable option so people can get 100% renewable power, but also to promote local development and create green jobs in Berkeley and throughout the East Bay. 8 years after the adoption of our climate action plan, we have some positive news to report. Our emissions are falling 12% below the year 2000 levels, despite a 20% increase in population. And while this decrease is significant, there's clearly more that we need to do to meet our target. We're doing a lot of great initiatives around promoting audits and energy efficiency of existing buildings, including our Building Energy Savings Ordinance. In addition, more than 2,000 buildings, both residential and commercial, have solar installed, totaling 9,000 kilowatts of energy. We're also participating in the Sun Shares program, resulting in 11 new solar installations in 2016 alone, totaling 43 kilowatts of local renewable energy. Cars make up 55% of our greenhouse gas emissions in the city of Berkeley, and that's why we're working hard to promote alternatives to single occupancy vehicle trips. This past year, we launched the Ford Go Bike program, and in the past 5 years, Berkeley has completed $38 million in walking, biking, transit improvement projects throughout the city. We have 1,150 electric vehicles registered to Berkeley addresses, and we're working to expand EV infrastructure throughout the city of Berkeley. But there's clearly still more work to do. So my administration and the new city council is working to add solar to our municipal buildings, require solar for large residential construction, establish policies to promote zero net energy buildings, expanding protected bike lanes and bike infrastructure, creating more EV charging stations, and building a state-of-the-art recycling transfer station down at 2nd and Gilman. But I want to just briefly touch upon 2 more points, 2 exciting initiatives that we're launching. We need to address the impact of disposable food containers and utensils on our landfills and on our bay and on our streets. And so, as Martin talked about, next week, the City Council will be voting on a plan to drastically eliminate the use of plastic in all of Berkeley's dining establishments. He touched upon some of the elements of the ordinance, but the impact of this plastic waste, which is really unnecessary, is significant on our streams, on our bays, and the impact it has on our landfills is significant as well. And if we want to meet our goal towards zero waste, we absolutely have to break the chain from this toxic plastic material that has no functional use And so while this is going to be a culture shift, just like the plastic bag ban, which we did several years ago, it took some time for people to get used to it. But now everyone brings their bags or pay 25 cents for a bag, and it has significantly reduced the impact of plastic bag waste on our bays and on our streets. So we are optimistic, working with the business community, that this can be a model ordinance that we can get cities throughout the country to adopt to reduce the amount of plastic waste and to really have an impact towards achieving zero waste. So I want to thank Martin Bork and the Ecology Center and the team of experts that's been working to move this ambitious ordinance forward. And please write to the City Council, express your support for this policy. And lastly, we're creating a new task force, Vision 2050, which will study how to make our city more resilient in the face of climate change and sea level rise. This includes upgrades in infrastructure, improved urban design, and implementation of technology that will allow us to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions to be more energy self-efficient. And the goal is for us to envision what will Berkeley look like in the year 2050. How can we implement a variety of initiatives to promote sustainability, resiliency, improved infrastructure, and also improving technology? And so we invite you to be part of that process as it's launched. Our chair, Ray Yep, is here in the audience. If you have any questions, please see him. So we're doing a lot in the city of Berkeley, but there's more to do. As Martin said, we need to get involved in this election. We need to get involved right here in our community, and we need to get involved not only on a local, but a national and global level. So think globally, act locally. We're doing all we can because we understand that we cannot wait. The future of our planet's at stake. So thank you very much. Happy Earth Day. Let's make every day Earth Day.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.